Ahead tonight, Miami at the center of a Bahamas boycott. We've got an exclusive look from South Florida with Janae Noel Ferguson.
Plus, deadline down. A deadline is passed. What's the next step for shantytowns?
And Team Bahamas comes back with more medals. The National Report starts now.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This segment of the news is brought to you by BTC, powered by Lime.
The deadline has passed for shantytown landowners to either clean up their areas or face prosecution for housing and environmental infractions.
Yes, government declared it would move forward with the prosecution of landowners earlier this month as a result of the Shantytown report. And so what happens next? Today, Elizabeth Member of Parliament Ryan Pinder says there will be consequences.
There would be further enforcement proceedings against the property owners.
Like?
You would have to ask the Minister of Works and Minister of Housing. I think there's fines, and ultimately I think the government would have the power and authority to take down structures that are inconsistent with law.
Just over a week ago, a massive fire destroyed part of a shantytown off Joe Farrington Road and left hundreds displaced. Owners of that land have already said they will not allow those residents to rebuild.
Right now, they're in the ones that were displaced are in shelters. But I think, like any residents in the Bahamas, you find housing that's consistent with the building structures of the country. We're trying to work with the Haitian ambassador and the embassy, both on relief efforts and to provide as smooth a transition as possible. We've already raised a number of items in Elizabeth, clothing and basic necessities that we're going to partner with the Haitian ambassador on distribution. It's something that I think is important to have the Haitian ambassador's involvement with and the government of Haiti's involvement with. But as a member of parliament and as the constituency and community, we're doing what we can to raise the necessary items through donations, to help those who are displaced. After all, they are human beings.
We've got more from that developing story in Miami. Cuban Americans turning up the heat in South Florida as they continue their protest against the Bahamas.
Now, they're not too pleased that Cuban migrants have been transferred to Her Majesty's prisons, and they're calling on authorities to step in and have them removed.
In this ZNS News exclusive, Janae Noel Ferguson tells us that more Cubans joined in the protest today, which they took to Bahamian authorities in Florida.
Cuban protesters of the democracy movement made their way to Ingram Building, where the Consul General office is housed, attempting to speak with Consul General Ricardo Trico, but that did not happen. Trico telling our ZNS News that he ensured that the building was secured, but the numbers were less than he expected.
Just from the response today from their own people here, we were supposed to be expecting thousands of people and less than 100 turned up. No, I think this is just an exercise in futility for them if you don't want me to be straightforward. And I don't think this is going to have any impact on our tourism product because the whole thing is fabricated.
Now, following Tuesday's protest, Cuban protesters came back here at the hunger strike site on Biscayne Boulevard. They told us that they've now joined with the former Prime Minister of Costa Rica to see if that country can be used as a third state for those Cuban nationals detained in the Bahamas to be sent to.
We are also talking to people who are close to the Honduran government to see if we can get the Honduran government also to help.
Sanchez is also calling for a thorough investigation of the detention center to be done.
I would like to say to the Prime Minister that we don't have anything against the Bahamas, that we would like to see the torture episode investigated, that it did happen, that the video is true, that the witnesses are inside the jail. He can't talk to them. We talk to them so he can talk to them.
And while Cuban protesters say that the government went against the agreement to return detainees to Carmichael Road from Fox Hill, Trico says no agreement was ever made and don't expect the government to back down now.
I think they're going to keep trying to push the button to try it and not just to make certain decisions, but we are firm in our resolve We're not going to be intimidated by anybody, by any amount of people, because we know what we have said is true and correct, and it will be, we'll be exonerated by all these charges. I can assure you of that.
Janae Noel Ferguson, ZNS Network News.
Prime Minister Perry Christie telling reporters today that the government will look closer, that is, into creating legislation for gaming throughout the country during the parliamentary break. This comes just 6 months after the national referendum on gaming. Mr. Christie revealed that the government will discuss and review submissions from casino operators and consultants before making a final decision.
We have to put in a new regime in casinos, and they have aspects of online gaming. I've said to people, whether we make the decision or not, we have it before us, whether people on work permits and people who are permanent residents can game in the casinos. They have, the casino owners have asked for it. They point out to us that when these entertainers come out for one night and they want to spend a lot of money in the casino, they are unable to do so by law because we have a restriction that even those on work permit cannot game.
Last week, union executives who represent staff at the country's primary phone company alleged that management planned to slash more than 100 jobs.
Well, that allegation was denied by BTC officials who said that's not even being contemplated. Labor Minister Shane Gibson was questioned about this. However, he said nothing came before him.
We have some concerns that we expressed with BTC already, with the many permanent temporary employees. I think that's what they call them, permanent temporary employees, where they're supposed to be permanently temporary, but they're doing the same work as the permanent employees, but with no benefits and with very low salaries. I think the salaries are somewhere around $300 a week. No medical insurance, no pension, and so we've discussed that already with BTC, and hopefully we won't see where BTC try to reduce the staff members further.
Now, the Labor Minister also talked about staff in a particular category at the phone company. He says he's not too pleased with the conditions they're working under, and the matter is being addressed.
I heard rumors like everybody else, but I am not aware of any meetings that was held with government, and certainly from the Ministry of Labor or the Department of Labor, we have not been engaged in any discussions concerning any further downsizing at BTC. Certainly, if it comes before me as Minister of Labor, I won't be supporting any further downsizing at BTC. I think that they're down now to what one would consider to be a bare minimum.
Well, Cuban Americans turning up the heat in South Florida as they continue their protest against the Bahamas. We'll have more on that developing story a little later in the newscast.
A 42-year-old was arraigned in the magistrate's court today on an incest charge. He was not required to enter a plea, and the matter will be fast-tracked to the Supreme Court. The prosecution objected to bail, and the case was adjourned to Friday for a decision. The accused was then remanded to prison. He expressed a concern about that, saying he was shot 14 times, and those accused of the crime are on remand at Fox Hill Prison. His concerns were noted, and he was told that the superintendent of prisons will be informed.
In our first look at weather, the remnants of Tropical Storm Dorian continue to head towards the southeast Bahamas, including the Turks and Caicos Islands. Will fire up some showers in that region during the course of the night and tomorrow. And the track will take it right through the southeast and central Bahamas through Thursday. But outside of our studios just now, we have partly cloudy skies, temperature 86 degrees, relative humidity 66%. Winds out of the east at 7 knots, your barometric pressure 1,019.0 millibars. That's 30.09 inches, and it is steady. But stay tuned, temperatures around the Family Islands, travel and boating forecast is so.
And coming up, more from the young people taking over Parliament.
And later in sports, flag football championship highlights. You're watching the Bahamas Tonight.
This portion of the news is brought to you by Shell Helix Ultra. Performance you can see.